Hey guys, it's Tom Howard here from 410 Productions with another Photoshop tutorial. This will be video 3 in the series. If you haven't watched the first 2 videos, I recommend you go watch them. They cover some great basics about Photoshop, so if you've never messed in Photoshop or you're looking for some new tips and tricks that you might have overlooked, you're in the right place. Today we're going to go over resizing and bringing in photos to Photoshop. I promised to go into more detail about this in the last tutorial, however I simply ran out of time. I wanted to cover the brush tool at the time, so today I'm going to bring you a tutorial that's just bringing in photos and resizing them. We're going to start with the most simple way to open a photo, and that's just double clicking on the background. When you double click, a dialog will pop up and you can pick a photo to open. We're going to stick with the same photo you've been using for the past tutorials. It just keeps things simple and allows you to use the same photo you've been using at home. Now, as you can see, this opened up in its own composition. It has the name of its photo and it's still saved as a JPEG right now. After we edit this, Photoshop, when you go to save, will prompt you to save as a Photoshop document. Like, for example, if I were to make a few new layers and maybe paint on one of them, when I go to save, when this pops up, it's going to prompt me to save as a PSD. Make sure that if you don't want to save it as a PSD, you actually go and select JPEG. It's just in the drop down menu. Going to exit out of this composition. We're not going to save the changes, and that's method number 1. Just double click the background and then double click your photo of your choice. Next we're going to go to File, New, and we're going to make a composition. I'm going to go with 1280 and I'm going to bump my resolution up. As I've said before, it's just personal preference. It might not even make that much of a difference, but I personally think it looks better. It's up to you. So now we have our composition. The second way to bring a photo in Photoshop is to place it on the document. Now place, when you put it on the document, will automatically resize it to the best of its ability to fill the entire composition. When you place it on, it's going to have this X across, these little handles at the corners and the sides, and it's going to be resized so it fits on your composition, but it might not fill the screen if the composition isn't proportional to the image itself. Now, to actually place it on your document, you have to hit enter. When you do, you'll see it load, and then you'll have your image. You'll see over here that this image has that little smart icon on it. We're not going to get into detail about that today. Just know that as long as something is a smart object, you can't paint on it, and that if you want to paint on it, you have to rasterize the layer. That's all I'm going to say about it now. We will go over it later. That's all you should need to know at this point. Like I said, if you place an image in a document, it will automatically resize no matter what size your composition is. I could open this in a 640 composition and it would look exactly the same. It would just be resized with a little border on the top and the bottom. We're going to close that. We're not going to save. The final method that I like to use to bring a picture into a document is if I create a new composition and then I open the photo, it will bring it up into a different tab. This allows me, when I bring the photo in, to know how big it is comparatively, and I can always resize it. We'll do that in a minute. So that's what I personally like to do. Just to go over how to move a photo into a composition again, you're going to come over to that panel, that tab. You're going to click on that photo, drag it up to your tabs, and then just hover over the tab that you want to bring it to. Next, bring your mouse down without letting go until you see that black bounding box and the little plus sign. Then, let go of the mouse, and it'll bring your photo in. Now, as you can see, there's a problem here. The photo is way too big for this composition. I don't want a composition about one little lamp thing. I want the entire chandelier type thing, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my zoom tool and zoom out using my scrubby zoom or holding the alternate key and clicking. Then with my move tool, I'm going to make sure I have that layer selected, and I'm going to hit Control and then T. As you can see, the same little handles popped up from when we placed our photo in, except now there's no X. This isn't a smart object, so there won't be an X. From here, there's a lot of ways you can resize a photo. You can drag in any of these handles and it'll automatically resize. If you grab the side handles, there is no option of proportionately scaling something. Same thing goes with the top. There is no option to proportionally scale something from the top handle. However, you can proportionally scale from any of the corner handles. All you have to do is hold Shift, click on the handle, and drag. As you can see, it's going to resize to the opposite handle. So wherever the opposite handle is, that's where it's going to proportionally resize to. From there, you can click and drag it back to your composition, and then hit Enter, and you're good. Now it's a layer, and you're free to draw on it and all that stuff. Now, let's zoom back in and get a better look. With my move tool selected, you can see I can drag this around now and it's all in my composition. But let's say I wanted to transform something and I didn't want it to go to the opposite handle. So we're going to make sure this layer is selected again with our move tool, Control T, and these little handles are going to pop up again. We're going to grab our bottom left hand corner handle, and you're going to see you can stretch it out however you want, like that. And then I'm going to hold the Shift key, and it's going to give me the the proportional transform, and it's going to go to the opposite handle. Now let's say I had lined it up so that that center dot when I first started transforming was right where I wanted the photo. It's not really a problem. All you have to do is, while holding the Shift key, press the Alt key. When you hold the Alt key down and Shift, it's going to proportionately transform it with that little crosshair as the transform point. So it's going to all go around that. Alright, that's me holding the Shift and the Alt key. So again, I'm going to hit Enter, and it's going to get rid of the transform box for me. That's pretty much all I wanted to get into in this tutorial. There will be another one coming out later in the week, early next week, continuing where we left off with the brush tool, and then moving on further into taking certain objects out of photos, masks. Maybe we'll go into some burn and dodge at some point, the pen tool. We got a lot more ground to cover, so that'll do it for this week's tutorial. This is Tom Howard from 410 Productions signing off.